in about 17 months. Steve Kerr and the Warriors trainers are headed down to Los Angeles to comfort Thompson, and we'll wait to see what the results of the MRI are, and we'll obviously have them for you as soon as we hear anything. And from the NBA to the NFL, Thursday Night Football, just 4 days after the miracle, the Hail Mary win for the Arizona Cardinals. They will take on the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday Night Football. 60% chance of rain, 100% chance of drama with Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray on the field together, with Arizona looking for the season sweep. They knocked off Seattle in a OT thriller on Sunday night a few weeks ago. Arizona wins. They're in first place, sole by themselves tomorrow morning in the NFC West. And SportsCenter is brought to you by Straight Talk. Look, we all accidentally damage our phones. It happens. Now, Straight Talk Wireless's new Platinum Unlimited plan includes phone protection. Just $65 a month for unlimited talk, text, data, and more. See Mobile Protect terms and conditions at Asurion.com/Straight Talk. Limitations and exclusions apply. Fellas, the NFL MVP right now is...
Yeah, it's Patrick Mahomes. You look at his last 2 weeks, he's got like 900 yards and 9 touchdowns.
Mahomes back to pass. Pressure coming hard.
They are still the best team playing football in the world right now, and it's because of their quarterback.
Makes the catch into the end zone for the touchdown.
But the one thing we don't talk about enough is his poise when games are in pressure-packed situations.
Patrick Mahomes just got rid of the ball. 48 yards.
The next mission for Patrick Mahomes and company to avenge their only loss of the season. Keyshawn, Jay, Will, and Zubin were presented by Progressive Insurance. Bart Scott is in the house. Jay will join us this morning at 8 a.m. Eastern to talk all things NBA draft, to talk all things Klay Thompson, and to get more perspective on those two things, we'll be joined by Bobby Marks, who spent more than 2 decades in an NBA front office. He's our front office insider, and he's on the way in 6 minutes. So if you're an NBA fan, hang tight. We got you covered all morning long, the day after the draft and the day before free agency. All right, so here's the deal. You guys know Key's been all over the Raiders all season long. They go into Arrowhead, they win, they defeat the Chiefs. Sunday Night Football, they'll meet again. I have to make sure I say this slowly. They'll meet again in Las Vegas, which is still strange to say, but they'll play at that brand new sparkling palace, Allegiant Stadium, with no fans. However, the Raiders now have 11 players on the reserve COVID-19 list. The first overall pick of the Mike Mayock era, 4th overall pick in the draft, Cleveland Farrell, first pick they made together, tested positive for the virus. So everybody that's been in and around those guys has to go into some sort of quarantine. We sort of saw it with Ben Roethlisberger last week, right? Not exactly testing positive, but you're around somebody that did. Right now, the Raiders have 11 players on the reserve COVID-19 list, with the bulk of them coming on the defensive side of the football. It's just a matter of a few hours. They wouldn't play a game in Las Vegas at 1 p.m. Eastern time. They would play it at 4:05 or 4:25, but it's notable this game will be played at 8:20 p.m. Eastern time. Just gives you 4 extra hours or so, depending on how tight the NFL's protocols are. As close contacts, not positive tests, as close contacts, the players could be eligible to return in time for the game, but the biggest key is to test negative all throughout the week to do that. What do you make of this?
We're going to see it every week, right? That's what seems like it's been happening in the National Football League since the beginning of the season. There's somebody on every single team either testing positive or going into some sort of protocol. So, you look at it and you say, well, it's interesting that everybody's on defense. They get ready to play the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not that. It's just interesting. It's like they get ready to play Kansas City and everybody's on defense. What do they do? Like, what happens? Do you move the game? Do you push it off till Monday? Now you're playing around with schedules again. I mean, this is going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah, but it seems to happen to the Raiders more than anybody. I mean, they've been habitual line steppers. You talk about the gathering they had with no mask. We talk about all the fines that have been levied towards the Raiders. I don't know if it's Vegas, what they're doing away from the field, but they really got to tighten the screws down because they have a good football team. And I think the first game, they just were more physical. This team resembles a John Gruden, Mark Mayock type of team. They're physical, they're young, they play hard, and they have a real legitimate chance to get into a wild card and make noise. We had so many questions about Carr coming in. Was he the future with this team? And listen, I think he's proven that he's taking the steering wheel, and he's not crashing the car. And this team is fast, it's physical. And I think that they have it just like Al Davis like it, right? This is built in the image of Al Davis, the old school Raiders. They're tough, man, in the trenches. They got big tackles. They ground and pound. Hudson is one of the best centers in the league, but they can't derail. They need to have a team meeting and say, hey, man, we got to be better.
There's only a couple things that's going to happen, Bart, right? They're either going to postpone the game to a later date, or they're just going to move it, a day or two.
Yeah, but remember the third thing, though, Key, right? Because if they found out that they were negligent, there's been talks that, remember the team, if the game is canceled, and they was going to the whole win percentage thing, they were saying that, hey, if a team is found to be negligent, they'll forfeit the game. But then what happens is the other team don't get paid because the game isn't played. So then in turn, they probably get fined again because they should be on the hook, I believe, to have to pay, the salaries for that week for Kansas City. That's the only way you're going to deter these teams from living reckless. I know we all have COVID fatigue. And, guys got to make sure that we're doing a better job because we're getting closer to the end. You know what November represents. November, it's a dash for the cash. That's where the cream rises to the top. That's when you're trying to get those positioning for the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know if they were reckless or what happened. Certainly in the past, they've been corporates of doing some things that they probably shouldn't have done. But who knows how this has come about. I know one thing, they got to get it fixed before they step on the field against the Kansas City Chiefs because they don't want to step on the field without players.
There's no doubt. Here's a couple of things to bolster Bart's point here. You kind of mentioned the habitual line steppers of the Las Vegas Raiders. I'll give you some numbers to back that up. 22 instances of players being added to the COVID reserve list for the Raiders. 22. So essentially half of them are coming yesterday in the story that we saw. 22, though, second behind the Jaguars, and you guys didn't think the Jaguars led the league in anything, but the Jaguars do lead the league in that particular category. I would also say that right now the entire NFL is under what they're calling intensive protocol. Yeah. Right. Which is ramped up measures, PCR testing, point of care testing, all these terms that many of us have become familiar with dealing with COVID in our lives. So while teams are trying to mitigate to some degree, and while some teams, to Bart's point, are stepping over the line, the league is essentially saying we've got ramped up, tightened protocols, and as we found out with Tennessee, it's up to you to follow them. We can't babysit all the time. There will be massive discipline if we find something, but this is sort of like, this is a little crazy to say this because these are grown, as Key likes to say, grown men. This is an honor system.
Grown men with full beards with car seats in the back.
Car seats in the back. Dads, men, grown people. This is sort of an honor system, which is something that hasn't been talked a little bit about. We're putting these protocols in place, and we are pleased